Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton. And I tell you what, today I've got a guest that I've been watching on TV and I just can't wait to really unpack some cool stories I'm sure he's got about how he's made it and failure, how it created his success along the way. Welcome to the show, Tarek El Moussa.
Thank you for having me, Chris. How you doing today?
I can't believe it. You're on he's on my podcast, so which is awesome.
And you said my name right.
Yes. Well, I've been practicing.
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah. Well, Chris Crawley is the one who connected us, I think, originally, and she's the one who said, no, his name is Tarek, not Tarek. So.
Chris is great. Love Chris.
Yeah, she's fabulous. So again, thanks for taking the time out. I know we tried to connect previously and we had some stuff pop up, but I'm so thankful that we're able to hop on here today and knock this out. You know, you're going to be that last chapter in my book, which is going to be really cool. So I'm excited about that. I want to jump right in and just ask you, what's the greatest lesson you've learned so far in your life, Tarek?
Oh man, just about life?
Just in general, yeah.
I mean, if we're going broad, the biggest lesson I've learned that is every single thing that we're told, every single thing that we're taught is wrong. I'm a believer that as people, we have such amazing talents and abilities that we can really accomplish anything. But in order to accomplish something, you have to have the mindset and you have to have the belief. And we're raised to stay in your lane, be quiet, get in order, follow instructions. So a lot of people, they don't hit that success level because they're lacking that self-belief, because throughout our entire life, we're told not to do things.
Yeah, that's the best. I've asked that question a lot. I think it's the best answer I've received so far is that if we do what everyone else tells us to do, we're not going to get where we want to go in life. Right. I mean, I just feel like we've got to test it, right? Step outside and push it a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. What got me in trouble for my entire life is what has made me successful today. What got me in trouble was talking too much. What got me in trouble was asking too many questions. What got me in trouble was always being curious and bothering adults. And all those things that got me in trouble as a kid is what has fueled my success as an adult, because I'm not scared to ask other adults questions. When do you plan on moving? If you sold this place, where would you go next? Right. So I took all those skills from a child into the adult world.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about that. I'm like, yes, I do similar things. Like I'm the guy that asks a ton of questions and I'm getting ready to, I didn't share this before we got on here, but we have our fourth child is going to be born on Tuesday. We have a scheduled C-section. So number 4, our son is going to be here. And I can't wait to teach him those lessons early on. Right. I mean, what an advantage that your kids have, because the things you've gone through and you're able to share that with them now, like they're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a lucky guy because I've been through so much pain and struggle in my life, and fortunately, I was able to overcome it. So now I just have so much experience on how to handle different situations, and I really understand emotions. And I'm taking all of that knowledge, just like my real estate knowledge, and I'm giving it to my kids.
Yeah, it'd be so valuable, right? I mean, I have my oldest child's 30 years old, so there's a big gap there in age.
Nice.
And I'm so much more prepared this time, right? Like just life in general.
Yeah,
my business, right?
Yeah, my son just turned 10 months old, and I told Heather, "Hey, at 42, I think I'm finally ready to be a dad." Like, like I'm at that age. It's kind of it's a different experience. But yeah, it's the same with business.
Yeah, and I'm 51, so I'm ahead of you a little bit, but not far. But yeah, that's when you think about it. Like someone asked me the other day, said, "Chris, are you concerned about having another child at 51?" I'm like, no way I can afford it, man. Are you kidding me? Like I can actually afford to have a kid. Like this is the craziest thing ever. And I was a kid when I had my first kid. So it's like, I'm not growing up with this person now. I'm going to be able to take care of my son and take him to a whole nother level. So, so what are you learning now?
Oh man, what am I learning now? I would say most recently, I'm learning a lot about myself. A lot of my goals and dreams and desires have really changed. As a young entrepreneur growing up with not much money and struggling, and like I was always so focused on making money. Okay. And obviously as time went on, I made money, and now money it's not that fulfilling anymore. What's more fulfilling is building a new business or accomplishing something new, or spreading my love for real estate with as many people around the world that want it. So I love sharing, I love teaching. Like I have so much stuff I do for free because real estate changed my life, and there's so many people out there struggling, they're wondering there's got to be a better way, and like this is the better way. It's been proven over and over and over again.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you're so transparent on social media with the lessons you're learning along the way. And you're not trying to get people to pay $99 to listen to what you have to say today. Now, if they want to take it to a higher level, sure, we can do some other things, but you're giving away the things that helps people take action. And I do that constantly in my industry as well. I give away what it takes to take action because the truth is most people just won't do the work.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal to give it
Yeah,
away,
well,
right?
yeah, well, it's one of those things, it's like the type of education or the type of teaching I do, they don't teach that in elementary school, junior high, high school, college. They don't teach that, right? So making money is different than being educated when it comes to like
Yes.
traditional education. It is two totally different things. Now, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, then yeah, you need to have that education. Without that education, they're not going to let you in the door. But when it comes to real estate investing, they don't teach you that education because at the end of the day, what is this country? We're nothing more than a big business, right? And we do business with all these different countries around the globe. And if the government is teaching everybody how to be an entrepreneur, well, who's going to run the business? Who's going to run the country? Who's going to deliver the mail? Who's going to cut yards? Who's going to build houses, right? So if people really want to learn about what it takes to actually make money and be financially free, they have to invest in themselves, which is
I
getting educated.
absolutely, I love that. I love that, Tark. I mean, like, you know, my wife's in medicine, so obviously she went to school for a long time. Um, I went to college for 1 year. That's it. And I jumped out and became an entrepreneur and just did a bunch of different things and learned the hard way, right, to get there. But essentially, I was going to school. I was just getting paid to do it along the way, right? And I think that that's where a lot of people miss. They think they can jump out and I'm going to be a real estate investor and tomorrow I'm going to be wealthy. Well, you got to learn the lessons along the way, right? So my next question for you is, how has failure shaped your life?
Oh man, if it wasn't for failure, I would have zero success because I didn't really go through trainings and get too many mentors, and I learned through trial and error. So what I would do is if I wanted to flip houses, I would study, I would read, and I would think, okay, here's 100 ways to flip houses. And one by one, I would test it. And okay, I failed. That doesn't work. I go to the next one. I failed. That doesn't work. I go to the next one. I failed. That doesn't work. I go to the next one. It works. Throw gas on the fire, scale it up. So my success is learned, or my success is created through my failures.
Yeah, can we go a little more deeper too on that? I know. Look, can we talk about like 2008, 2009, right? I mean, you were in real estate then, and I think the story goes something about living in a garage. Like, I mean, like, I think people need to know that. Obviously, I'm a big fan guy here because obviously I know this about you, and some people may not know that. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of the work you've done, and not just because it's on television, but because I'm a grinder myself, right? Like, and I bet on me, and I
Yep.
know countless times you've put all the chips on you and just did the work. Sometimes you lost the chips, sometimes you didn't. So was there a time in 08, 9, 10, somewhere around there where you thought about saying, okay, I got to go get what people call a real job? Like, is that ever
Yeah.
crossed your
Well,
mind?
heck, actually, I tried to get a real job and I couldn't get one. I tried to get a job as a valet parker, and they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have experience. But I was like, well, wait a minute. A couple of years ago, I was delivering pizza. That's driving. So I'll tell you my quick real estate story, like super high level. I like to believe that with the right training and focus, you can actually make money fast in real estate. Not millions of dollars, but you can change your life fast. I'll give you an example. I got into real estate at 20 years old. My first 6 months in the business totally struck out, right? Um, I ended up getting a coach, and the coach had me focus on calling expired listings, which is houses that are for sale that didn't sell as a real estate agent. I was hyper focused. I worked 6 days a week, 12-hour days, 3 hours on Sunday. I had one goal to talk to 50 people a day. If I didn't talk to 50 people, I couldn't go home. After 90 days of doing this at 20, 21 years old, I ended up making $120,000 in commissions. So I went from being a 20-year-old kid living in my mom's garage because my parents got divorced and my mom rented out my bedroom for cash flow to 90 days later living in a almost $1 million home. Now, I learned a lot of lessons along the way. I stayed in that $1 million home for about 2.5 years. The Great Recession hit 2008. It really started at the end of 2006. And I had to sell my $1 million home, Cadillac Escalade, BMW, Mercedes. I had to move into a tiny little apartment, and I had to borrow my dad's truck with roll up windows and no air conditioning. So, like, I hit rock bottom multiple times through my life. And it's always about the rebuild and taking those lessons with you. So, I hit it big, and then I had to start over. My income was way down, and I started doing short sale transactions. And then I did a short sale, had a first lien, second lien, third lien. I worked on this thing for 11 months, sold it to an investor who flipped it, made 130,000. They didn't do anything. And that was the exact moment I said, I want to be a real estate investor. So I pitched everybody I knew. Everybody else said I was crazy, except for one person said they would do it. Um, and there it was. We flipped that very first house and just never looked back.
Well, I think it's important that people listen to about how you made the money and then lost it all. Like so many people just see the wins and not the losses, right? Like I, I had a similar story. I made a ton of money. I made over $1 million before I was 28 years old and lost everything before I was 30. Like, yeah, Escalade. I had a Hummer, a big house, all the Rolex watches. Like I had it all, baby. I was like MTV Cribs, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I was wanting to be. But I didn't know what to do with the money or anything else. And the truth is, I stopped working as hard as I did to get the money, right?
A
And
hundred, 100%. I relate to you this so much. So it's like you look at me and it's like, okay, I've been working, grinding for 20 something years, but within those years, did I take some breaks? Yeah, I slowed down. Right now, I'm on fire. I'm working like a crazy person. But let's talk about the lessons. 20, 21-year-old kid, right? I made 120,000, bought $1 million house, all this fancy stuff. I remember being in my 20s, stressed out of my mind, drinking every night, so worried about not being able to pay my bills. I didn't buy any investments. I didn't have any assets. I didn't do it. All I did was pay for all this crap that was depreciating in value. And in the end, when I sold everything, I was back at zero. So then I learned a valuable lesson. One, I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket. So it's not just selling houses. I want to do TV. I want to sell houses. I want to flip houses. I want to buy rentals. So brought in multiple streams of income. And another thing I realized is I needed to own assets. So I started buying assets like crazy. And over the years, I bought houses. And today I have about 200 rental properties around the country. We have well over 1,000 apartment units. We have self-storage facilities. We have office retail. So yeah, the lessons are to protect yourself. Don't buy the junk, buy the assets, let the assets buy the junk.
yeah, but it's hard to do when you're young, man. Like you know what I mean? Like if you get on social media, everybody has all this fake stuff they have, but I was sucked into it. I was, and it sounded like you were too. Like I was more worried about what people thought I looked like than what I really had, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
but here's
so
the truth
did that
though.
create any fear? Did that create any
Yeah.
fear for you as you started making money again?
Oh yeah, all the time. But here's something important though. Like with all of that being said, I just had to learn new skills to make more money. So I'm not the guy who eats top ramen and lives in a tiny apartment and saved every dollar. No. Like I've lived a good life. I've bought nice cars, I've gone on amazing trips, so I've spent money. So for me it's important to make a lot of money so you can do two things. You have money to reinvest, right? And two, money to live a life that you've always dreamed of because we're only here once.
Yeah, and that's something we need to remember every day as far as chase being clear about what your dreams are. Like I'm one of those guys that just has a vision every day and understanding where I want to go. It's kind of weird when it starts happening though, like, oh my gosh, this is really happening now. And to keep focused on that. So how did you get from that transition into the TV side of things? I mean, because obviously that's had a positive impact on your business.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this. Did you know that I got my show Flip or Flop? I pitched it and I came up with the idea before I ever flipped a house.
No, I did not know that.
All right.
That's awesome.
This is one of those wild stories of Tarek El Moussa. Okay, here it is. So I had just bought, I had that crazy idea to flip houses. I found someone that would want to buy a flip with me. We bought our first flip. It was a condo in Santa Ana, California, paid 115,000. Around that same time, I went to a real estate convention in Las Vegas where there was like 5,000 people. Two seats opened up in the very front row where the VIP sit. And my friend was up there. He said, "Hey, come sit up here. There's empty seats." Where normally you have to pay. Back then, I didn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
At the break, I ended up meeting a guy who had a local TV show. And the day before, he was on stage talking about how he made 800,000 a year. So I'm like, I should listen to this guy. And he told me he'd go to the grocery store and people would recognize him. I'm like, okay, that's cool. What does that do? And he's like, well, then, then they know who I am. I said, okay, well, what does that do? And then he's like, well, then that's how I do business with them. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's your marketing is TV. Like I was farming and dropping flyers. So I never thought about TV. So me and my ex-wife, Christina, we get home from Vegas. I think it was the next day or the day after. We're sitting on the couch, 10 o'clock at night. And I can't stop thinking about this conversation. She has one foot up the stairs. We lived in San Clemente, California. She goes, you coming to bed? I asked her, no. She goes, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to get us a TV show. And of course, she looks at me like I'm batshit crazy, starts laughing at me. And then she goes, what are we going to get a TV show on? And I said, I don't know yet. So I said, just 1 second. And within 3 seconds, I blurted out, well, we just bought our very first flip. Why don't we flip houses on TV? She called me crazy, went to bed. I literally went on Google, typed Hollywood production company, started sending my idea. Woke up the next morning, somebody responded. I sent the home, they asked me to send a home video. We filmed a home video. They liked that. Then we did a sizzle, which is a 2-day shoot. They liked that. Then it went to the networks. For 10 months, nobody bought it. I'd given up on the dream. 10 months later, I get a call. HGTV wants to do a pilot. Filmed the pilot summer of 2011. Then I was told the odds of getting a show are very small, and it's going to take a long time if you get one. I wasn't really worried. Weeks later, I get a contract from HGTV for a TV show to flip 13 houses in 10 months on national TV. Sounds very exciting, right? 2 problems. 1, I didn't know how to flip houses. Problem number 2, even if I knew how to even if I knew how to flip houses, well, where am I going to get all these millions of dollars? I had no money. So I called my attorney at the time who took my retainer on a payment plan. And I said, listen, man, like if I sign this thing, what's the worst thing that can happen? And he goes, well, they can sue you. So I looked around my apartment and I said they could have it. And I signed that sucker twice and I burned the boats, literally. Like think about how wild that is. I literally learned the business of flipping while after I had agreed to do a flipping show, and I had to do it while I was filming and I didn't know how to find the property. So that very first year I was under so much pressure. When I say this, I am not kidding. I worked 18 to 20 hour days. I would work all day and then I would leave my house. You can ask Christina, from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. I would drive all of Southern California by myself, driving by all the houses that were going to the auction the next morning. Because for the show, I couldn't buy houses that had people living in them. So I could only buy vacant houses. So I'd look for cars in the driveway, overgrown lawns, newspapers. And then I'd show up to the auction after driving all night. And let's just say my max bid is 250,000, right? So they open it up at 200, 222, up 250. And next thing I know, it's 260, 270, 280, 300, 3. And these guys are paying 50, 100,000 more than me. And I'm thinking, man, I'm never going to get a house. And they can do that because they're big hedge funds with millions and millions of dollars of other people's money. But I kept showing up. And guess what happened? After 2 weeks of grinding it and just going after it, I bid on a house. And nobody bid against me for whatever reason. And I got the house. And then I learned through massive, massive, massive action, every now and then I'm going to get lucky. And that's how I pulled it off.
What an what an amazing story, dude. Like,
Yeah, it's
it
wild.
just keeps getting better, brother. Like, I mean, you believed in yourself so much. You're like, hey, I'm going for it. I'm going for it. And there's not a, you know what? I think that's probably one of the main things that drew me to you is just the fact that I knew you go for it. I didn't know to this level, but that's just who I am too. Like I put all my chips on Chris Welton. Like I'm not afraid. Like that's the only thing I can control. The only bet I can control
100%.
is what I do, right?
Exactly. And that's what people got to understand. Everybody's waiting for someone to save them. Nobody's going to save you. You got to save yourself. And that's the thing. No one is going to bail you out. No one is going to help you. Life is not fair. And the second you acknowledge the fact that life is not fair and shit happens, you're going to go so much further. So like when I think about my life, I remember I was a 19-year-old kid getting my real estate license. Everybody's laughing at me. Real estate? What are you talking about? Nobody's going to do real estate with you, stupid. Seriously, I'll never forget. I was in a Ralph's grocery store. I see my friend's dad. I was 19, 20 years old or 20 years old. I walked by him and he's like, oh, what are you up to nowadays? I said, oh, I got my real estate license. He starts laughing at me. And he goes, what, you think you're going to make 6 figures? I laughed back at him. I said, no, I'm going to make 7. And I did. So that was one time. And then I had this idea for TV. Everybody's laughing at me. You're delusional. TV, nobody wants you on TV. What are you going to do? Guess what? I got the biggest, most famous house flipping show in TV history. Okay, and then I said, okay, I'm going to be a commercial real estate investor. 8 years ago, everybody said no one's going to take you seriously. You're a house guy. Excuse me, I'm closing on 215 units in Orlando today. 2 weeks ago, I broke ground on a 200,000 square foot self storage facility. Right now, I'm looking at developing hundreds of units in Southern California. So, like every single thing I've been told I can't do, I've actually done, and I'm so glad actually that people throughout my life have told me I can't do things because it bothers me. It puts a chip on my shoulder. So when I'm tired, when I'm exhausted, when I want to quit, I think about their little voice telling me I can't do it, and I keep going.
Look, again, for people that are listening, that was solid gold right there. Like we'll send you the invoice because we could charge a lot of money for what he just said. And you know, I love it when people tell me I can't do something. See, I'm an amputee, Tarek. So I was born with one arm, right? So like people my whole life have been telling me you can't do this, you can't do that, and then I'm playing varsity football and I'm doing all these other things because you told me I couldn't, right? And then they told me I couldn't get the pretty girl. Well, I've got a 12, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just like
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I love it when people bet against me because it just gives me more desire to prove them wrong. I have no issue with when people tell me you can't pull it off.
Oh, I
I
love
actually
it.
I invite it, right? I invite
Yeah.
it. So let's yeah.
That,
Today
that,
I'm going
that,
to find somebody's
that's
going to
the
tell me
deal.
yeah I can't do something just so I can do it.
Exactly. But look at you, for example. Like you're a rock star. You got your book coming out. You're doing podcasts. You have a brand. You have a family. You have 4 kids. Imagine if you let imagine if you let your arm like ruin your life. For like some people, it will actually ruin their life, right?
Yeah.
You didn't let that happen. Like when I got my cancers, I could have quit. When I went
Mhm.
broke, I could have quit. It's about continuing to chase your dreams and go after everything you want in life.
What's it like with being in the public eye? I'm just curious. I mean, you live in Southern California, so it's super common to be in the public eye, especially in Newport. Like, I mean, there's let's be honest. Like, I travel there a lot for family events and stuff because my family's from there, and you're gonna run into like almost every time I go to dinner, there's one of the housewives is there. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you just they're everywhere. But I'm just curious what that like, not necessarily in Newport, but what it's like when you travel to other places. Does it get uncomfortable? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, it depends on situations. Where people are drinking a lot, loud bars, concerts. Sometimes, it can be a little overwhelming at times. But in general, people are great. They're nice in person. I mean, over all these years, I've had maybe two situations where people were like very rude and awful to me for no reason. Typically people are very nasty on social media. I mean, there's been some terrible things said about me. At this point, I've been dealing with all this hate so long, like I don't even pay attention to it anymore. Which I'm very grateful for that.
yeah, I get some hate on my because I post a lot of one arm workout videos, and it's amazing the things people say to me on there. Like it's and and I'm one of those guys that likes to respond and go at them a little bit to mess with them, and then they'll block me, which I think is even funner. Like it's just more exciting. But it's keyboard courage, man. They're sitting in their boxer shorts in their mom's basement eating Cheetos, and they're on their keyboard, right? Like they're
Yeah,
saying what they're gonna say. So
and here's something we need to acknowledge, right? Let's talk about the mental health aspect of it. There's a reason why they're on a keyboard saying nasty things, being toxic and being negative, because inside they are miserable and they're
yeah,
projecting, and they are the ones who really need help.
yeah, I agree with you on that. That's yeah. I need to think about that next time before I fire
Yeah,
back. I'm sorry.
no, no,
Sometimes I'm
no,
just
no.
like,
Let me be clear. I fire back too. Trust me.
yeah,
But a lot at the end of my fire back, I think it might be a good idea to work on yourself.
yeah, that's true. I'll have to use that from you a little bit there at the end of the next one. But um, so I actually work with a lot of real estate investors. That's what I do. I'm a coach for them, and I'm also a speaker as well at events. And um, one of my clients is doing great. Younger guy, 30 years old. He's got like 65 doors. Just purchased two more properties to flip in Michigan over the weekend. But what would you tell someone today that, and I know the market's just different right now, but what would you tell someone today that says, hey, you know what? I think I'm ready to jump in and try to start flipping some properties.
100%. Get started yesterday. I mean, it doesn't take money. It takes somebody's money, but not your money to flip houses. Or you can wholesale houses, which takes nobody's money really, except for the person you're selling it to. There are just so many opportunities, and like all the time, people come up to me, well, oh, I can't compete against you, and how would I go against someone like you? And all these people, then these self-limiting beliefs on what they can and can't do. And then you know what I say every time? This is what I say. If I thought like you, I wouldn't have TV shows. I wouldn't be a house flipper. I wouldn't have coaching programs, and the world wouldn't know me. You want to know why? Because you're comparing yourself to me. I got to compare myself to Zillow. I got to compare myself to Open Door. Do you understand that I'm nowhere near the same level as those guys? You're closer to me than I am to them. So ask me how many times I've thought about my competition. Never. I don't have competition, because when I go buy a deal, it's gonna be because I found the deal at the right time at the right place. And that's how it works. And you don't find those deals without having a plan and taking massive action.
Yep. And it's you versus you, right? Like, what am I doing better now than I did last year or last week? I mean, that's one of the things I talk about all the time is I'm not going to compare myself to these other people that are out there. That's not, I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, right? I'm going to compare myself to where Chris Welton was a year ago or 5 years ago, or even last week, right? I mean, that's just what we do. And I feel like you're the same. Like, you compare yourself to your numbers and you just keep pushing to
Oh,
try to do better.
100%. So in my new book, Flip Your Life, I talk about that a lot. So like I never compare myself to others. Okay, that's important. But what I've done throughout my life is try to emulate others' success. So what that means is if someone wants to be a house flipper, they should probably learn from someone like me, if not me, right? So you want to find someone that's done what you've done that you want to do, that has proven they're credible, that has generated results, that has found success, and then you want to learn from that person. And that's the fastest way to move the needle and get ahead in life. Now, not compare yourself to that person, but learn from that person.
Yeah, I think that the opportunities that are out there now in any business, finding the person who's where you want to be can cut the learning curve off by 20 years, right? Like, I mean, you see people that they look like they're an overnight success, but they suffered for 20 years, right? Like, you suffered for a long time to
Oh
get
my
where you're at.
Oh my God.
So,
If I knew what I knew now, here's the most important thing. All throughout my life, I worked so hard, so much, trying to learn how. If I can go back, it's not about how, it's about who. That's the word.
yeah, definitely your who's. You're definitely your who's. I mean, I've got a list of who's, and like when I decided to do the book, One Jordan, I put my list of who's, right? And my list kept growing. And the number of people that I've been able to get in contact with and have conversations with by sending one shoe, like, it's just different, right? But I found out who my who's were and I went after it. And they didn't know who Chris Welton was. I mean, they get, people like all the time are reaching out, right? Like, I mean, they don't know who I am, but I'm going to take the chance and go for it. And the other thing too is, I think even when people are starting out, you need to put either time or money in your budget to learn, right? Knowledge acquisition. And I'm a student of my industry. I'm constantly studying. I was reading my book, my 10 pages before I got on today. Like, I'm constantly trying to learn and improve. So I'm curious, what do you do? Like, who are you trying to learn from right now?
Yeah.
Who's a major influence in your life?
Yeah. Here's something I want people to understand. Like, I wasn't like this, right? I mean, I didn't work all this time. I wasn't scheduled. I didn't wake up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, right? I had to become this. So I tell people a lot about being an entrepreneur and about being an investor isn't even about being an entrepreneur or being an investor. It's about becoming the person that has the ability to be an investor or an entrepreneur. What does that mean? Someone that sets goals, someone that sets schedules, someone that builds routines. You need to become that person. So I got to this level by always pushing the envelope, right? So I didn't go from waking up at 7 a.m. to 4 a.m. I went from 7 a.m. to 6:30, and then I went from 6:30 to 6, and then I went from 6 to 5, and I scaled down. So everything is progress, and it's not going to happen overnight. So I always tell people, just try to get 1% better every single day. And after a year, 365% better. You were asking me mentors. For me, like, I look like, here's an example. Like, whenever I feel like not doing something, or I'm tired, or I'm on no sleep and I got to wake up at 3 a.m., you know what I think about? I think about The Rock. I think like,
Yeah.
that's why I think about The Rock, because this guy's posting in his gym after 20 hours of work, lifting weights at 2 in the morning, because it's part of his routine. So that's someone I look up to.
Yeah, and that's the thing people need to know. The mentor doesn't have to be somebody you have on your phone. Like we have access to all the mentors in the world. Like you really do. Like I was just at an event and got to have spend quality time with John Maxwell. And when I was talking with John Maxwell, and he's like, Chris, it doesn't have to just be someone you can call. We have access to everybody right now,
Yeah,
and can see what it takes to get where we want to go.
yeah, 100%. So when it comes to, like, when I want to quit, that's who I plug into. Now my mentor, who's become my best friend, we met a couple years ago. And recently he started working with me and helping me, is a gentleman named David Steinberg, who is just an absolute rock star. And he's the CEO and founder of Zeta Global, which is a marketing firm.
So let's one more thing before we hop off here because I want to respect your time. You've been
Sure.
on a fitness kick. Like I'm seeing you in the gym, but except when you broke your arm. If we'd have connected before, I could have given you some one arm workouts and we'd
Yeah,
have been
let's do it.
okay. But but what's what was the reason for jumping in the fitness gym and to get the workouts in? Was there just something that changed in your life to make you want to do that?
Yeah, we don't know where inspiration or motivation is going to come from. And because I'm someone with a lot of ADHD, I'm always doing so many things, which means I come up with a lot of opportunities and ideas. So I'll just tell you how this whole thing happened. I've worked out on and off throughout my entire life. I've had a lot of health struggles, two cancers. I had a lot of issues with alcohol when I was younger, just always issues. I ended up working with this company who sent me a scale. I don't even remember the company name. And, they wanted me to promote the scale. So I stand on this scale, and then it gives me a reading of everything, right? My body fat percentage, like everything, skeletal bone mass. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait a minute, is this thing right? Because at the time, I think I was 38 or 39, and it said my metabolical age was like 42. So it was saying that my age inside was older than my outside. And that was the exact moment I said, I don't think so. The competitive spark kicked off. I said, you know what? I think it was in like November. I said, January 1st, I'm going back to the gym, New Year's resolution. 5 minutes later, I said, forget that. I'm not going back January 1st. I'm going today. I went to the gym that day and I never stopped going. And that age, when I was 39 instead of 41, last time I checked, it was down to 37. So I'm feeling good about it.
I love the fact that you took action and didn't wait till the new year. I talked about that the other day. I was on a call with a group of realtors and I said, look, right now is coasting season, man. A lot of people had Thanksgiving dinner and they start coasting till January. What they don't realize is when they kick in January, it takes till March to get back to where they are right now. Like, just go do it
Exactly.
today.
And if people only understood, like, when you have an idea, you got to do it in the moment. Here's why. The hardest part about starting anything new, doesn't matter what it is the start. It's the very first step. Like, I think back at my life, like when I was not working out, the thought of going to the gym and getting on a treadmill and lifting weights, it sounded like torture, right? But guess what happens? Once you start, here's what happens. After 3 weeks, it doesn't bother you anymore because you're used to that routine. Your mind is used to it. Two, you start seeing results. So then you start feeling good. Your endorphins are going off and your confidence is going up. Three, next thing you know, you're excited to go to that gym. So within a month, you can go from a person like dreading the gym to a person that loves the gym just because you started.
Yeah. And all the good ideas I get when I'm in the gym, honestly, like my brain is just like
Yeah.
nonstop, right? I'm the guy who's doing voice memos in the gym. And sometimes it's some crazy stuff. I get to listen to it. I'm like, oh, that was whacked. Like, but just the way we think when our endorphins are firing is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I mean, I think what I've learned after 42 years is the important things of life is living a balanced life, focusing on financial success, focusing on health, focusing on family, and focusing on happiness. Where
Yeah.
earlier on I would only focus on one thing, which was money, and I made money. My health was in the shitter. my family wasn't there, right? And my happiness wasn't there because I was stressed out of my mind.
Yep. Well, man, I want to end by saying, dude, I'm super proud of the everything you've got going on. It's amazing to watch the transition. I'm so happy and thankful for your new child and the new spouse, and just like you guys are just dialed in from what I can see. And dude, you're an inspiration to people who want to do well in life, and just need a little bit of an extra boost, and they listen to these stories and can
And
understand what it takes.
that's it. And like, I'm so excited because I think it's February 6th, my book Flip Your Life comes out. And I wrote that book geared towards 20-year-old Tarek. Like, I wrote the book to help me 22 years ago. So the stories I shared with you, the entire book is about these different stories and details, the challenges, the obstacles, how I overcame them. So I would love to send you a copy when the time comes.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. And I've got you're gonna get something really cool for being part of my book. So just hang tight on that. I got some stuff that's anybody that's in the book has got something really cool. It's gonna show up at their doorsteps around the time of the release. But again, man, thanks for taking the time out today, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, Chris. This was a lot of fun, and congrats on all the success. Congrats on the book, and baby number 4.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning into the One Hand at a Time podcast. Please make sure you like and share the episode, and we'll see you next time here at the One Hand at a Time podcast. Make it a great day.